Hi everyone, I'm Mario and welcome to Code on Fire. Today we're kicking off a series dedicated to sculpting in Blender. We'll start from the basics and work our way up to creating complex models. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos. Let's get started right away. Press Shift A, go to Mesh and select an icosphere. Give it 4 subdivisions. This isn't a random choice. This primitive, divided into equally sized triangles, as you can see in edit mode, provides a great topology for sculpting. To start sculpting, we need to select the object and switch to sculpt mode. As you can see, on the left column we have brushes, each with its own specific characteristics. On the top row, there are options to adjust strength, brush size, and other functions we'll find useful. By pressing the spacebar, you can bring up this window, where all the functions from the left and top are gathered. To make sure you have the same settings as I do right now, go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons and check everything to activate many useful features, not just for sculpting. To begin sculpting, you need to know at least a few brushes. The first one is the grab. This brush lets us move parts of the mesh. Let's use the grab brush on this part. Press the left mouse button and move it. As you can see, we can move the mesh. The second essential brush is the draw. It lets us create bumps on the surface, but if we press the Control key, it will carve into the surface. The Control key reverses the direction of a brush's force. This applies to all brushes. The last brush we'll consider is the smooth. This brush relaxes the mesh, rounding out the surface. With a bit of practice, it will soon become clear how these brushes work. We'll cover the other brushes later. For now, let's focus on how to set up a mesh properly for the best sculpting results. To get started, let's sculpt something simple like a pear. So the first thing to do is to position ourselves on the icosphere with the grab brush. Adjust the brush size and pull upwards. Adjust it nicely. After making this adjustment, switching to edit mode, we can see the mesh has lost its subdivision regularity. In this part, the faces have become larger. This means that sculpting on this part will result in different effects compared to other parts of the mesh due to the lower level of detail caused by the larger faces. This brings us to introduce the DynTopo feature right away. This function allows us to subdivide or merge the faces of the mesh while sculpting, letting us adjust the level of detail. We can activate this feature by checking this box. Opening the drop-down menu, we see various options. The first one is Detail Size. Here we can adjust the level of detail, which in other words is the level of subdivision the mesh will reach while sculpting. This level is expressed in pixels, meaning the lower the value, the higher the subdivision the mesh will undergo, and therefore the higher the level of detail. As we can see, changing this value gives us a different level of detail due to the varied subdivision of the mesh, as we can observe well by going into edit mode. Let's go back to sculpt mode and remember to reactivate DynTopo each time. This option can be managed in different modes. The default mode is relative detail. based on the pixel value we saw. The other mode we'll consider is brush detail. This one uses the brush size as a reference and lets us further adjust the level of subdivision by modifying this percentage value. The smaller it is, the greater the subdivision of mesh. Let's see some examples on the mesh by modifying the detail level. Switching to edit mode, we can actually see how the mesh has changed. Next, we have a refine method. We are in the subdivide collapse mode, which is the default. This mode will merge or subdivide faces to maintain the subdivision of the mesh at a value corresponding to the detail level we've set. We'll use this setting for now and look at the other options of this feature as we go. So far, we've been using DynTopo with the draw brush. This is because not all brushes can activate DynTopo. If we use the grab brush and move the mesh with DynTopo active, we won't get any subdivision of the mesh, as we can see. The same goes for the smooth brush. So, for now, we'll use this feature with this brush. Now, let's say we want to modify the mesh subdivision through DynTopo and the draw brush, but without changing its shape. To do this, set the brush strength to 0 and sculpt the mesh. Switching to edit mode, we can see that we've achieved subdivision without altering its shape. We can use this process whenever we need to adjust the mesh subdivision without changing its shape. Let's continue making the mesh subdivision uniform in relative detail with a value of 2.5 and proceed with the sculpting, applying what we've seen so far. Define the shape and add small imperfections to make everything more realistic. Use the smooth brush to smooth out the surface. Once the shape is established, go back to object mode, hide the Pear, Shift A and add a cylinder for the stem. Scale it, unhide our object, position it, select it, and go back to sculpt mode. Activate DynTopo and subdivide the cylinder mesh with the draw brush set to 0 strength. Continue sculpting using the brushes we've covered so far. When needed, adjust the brush strength, size and detail level. At this point, you can keep adding more details until you get the desired effect. That's all for now. Don't miss the upcoming episodes in this series. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel.